2017.
Question number 11, in the name of Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Education. Does she stand by all of her decisions as Minister of Education? If not, which, if any, particular decisions does she now regret?
Point of order.
Point of order, Honourable Trevor Miller.
Mr. Speaker, I'd just like to ask you whether Standing Order 3832 and Speaker's Ruling 1765 will apply in this case, or whether you will adopt the 2007 ruling regarding informing the House when the primary answer is longer than generally acceptable.
Well, at this stage, Mr Mallard, I accept we wait until we at least hear what the answer is to the primary question. Honourable Hipkins.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yes, in the circumstances and with the advice received at the time.
Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Did she read all of the relevant Cabinet papers before she agreed that Nova Pay would be rolled out? If not, why not?
Honourable Hipkins.
Mr. Speaker, the primary question asks, did I regret the decision? And clearly, with hindsight, the decision in respect of Nova Pay wasn't the best decision, and it has created incredible problems for everyone. And that hindsight would have served the Labour Ministers of Education who progressed and signed the contract, and for whom that member was an advisor.
Point of order, Chris Hipkins.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. It was actually a very specific supplementary question. The Minister hasn't addressed it.
Okay, I invite the member to ask the question again.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Did she read all of the relevant Cabinet papers before she agreed that Nova Pay would be rolled out? And if not, why not?
Honourable Hipkins.
Mr. Speaker, all of the Cabinet papers, to my understanding, go back to 2005. I read the papers that were relevant to the decision that was put before me in June and July of 2012.
Chris Hipkins. Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Miller.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's a rerun of the previous point of order. The question was all of the Cabinet papers. She's indicated that she has read some of them, but she hasn't given an answer as to whether she's read all of them. You might want to do a Dr. Smith and interpret, and she's saying no, but I think she should probably say it herself.
Well, no, I don't want to do a Dr. Smith, but I think by listening to the question, and we're all able to listen to the question and then the answer, by implications, it's fairly clear to me that the Minister hasn't read all of the Cabinet papers dating back to 2005.
Good question.
Supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Did she read the paper which indicated that as risk mitigation, the new payroll system would be run in parallel with the old system, and that there would be an 8-month staggered implementation in 5 distinct areas, avoiding a, quote, high-risk Big Bang implementation, end quote? And if so, why did she agree to a rollout of the system without that risk mitigation being in place?
Honourable Hipkins.
Mr. Speaker, I didn't hear the entirety of the question, but the decision was...
Point of order.
I'm happy to repeat the question for the Minister.
I think in the circumstances that's fair, and it was members behind the Minister that made it difficult for the Minister to hear. I'd be grateful if they'd also maintain a level of silence so the question can be clearly heard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Did she read the paper which indicated that as risk mitigation, the new pay system would be run in parallel with the old system, and that there would be an 8-month staggered implementation in 5 distinct areas, avoiding, quote, a high-risk Big Bang implementation, end quote? And if so, why did she agree to a rollout without that risk mitigation being in place?
Mr. Speaker, I read a range of papers, and at the time I was confident that I had all of the advice that I needed to make the decision at the time. But as I've said, hindsight is a wonderful thing, and I took the recommendations of all of the officials and all of the external consultants that were advising me, and I read the papers, and that was the decision we took at the time.
Supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
Mr Speaker, does she stand by her decision to sign off the implementation of Nova Pay, despite the fact that there were 142 known faults with the system before it went live, or before she signed off it going live? The contingencies initially put in place had been removed, and the phased implementation initially proposed had been abandoned in favour of immediate full implementation. If so, why?
Honourable Hiki-Parata.
Mr Speaker, as I've already said, I do stand by the decision in the circumstances of the time, in the advice that was offered, in the papers that were before me, in terms of the independent and external advisors that offered the advice. At the time, I considered it to be the best decision. In hindsight, it is clear that better decisions could have been made, but hindsight could serve all of us better as well.
Supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Was she aware that the Ministry of Education was considering breaking the contract with Nova Pay provider Talent 2 only 2 weeks before she signed off the implementation? If not, why not?
Honourable Hiki-Parata.
Mr Speaker, I wasn't advised of that.
Mr.
Supplementary
Speaker.
question, Chris Hipkins.
Did she ask for or receive any advice on extending the contingency arrangement that was in place with Datacom until after Nova Pay had gone live before she signed it off? If not, why not?
Honourable Hiki-Parata.
Mr Speaker, all of these questions are interesting and germane, and that is why the Minister responsible for Nova Pay has ordered a ministerial inquiry that will allow this House to have the detail that this member is securing, and I look forward to that occurring as well.
Point of order, Chris Hipkins.
Mr Speaker, that was a very specific question, one that the Minister is responsible for. I know there's an inquiry that's been called for. That doesn't mean that she's not accountable to the
Order.
House.
I invite the member to ask the question again.
Did she ask for or receive any advice on extending the contingency arrangement that was in place with Datacom until after Nova Pay had gone live? If not, why not?
Honourable Hiki-Parata.
Mr Speaker, my recollection is I did indeed ask Ministry officials what other contingency might be available and what we could do in order to ensure that, and I was given advice at that time that we could and should proceed with the contract as it was being put before me by officials.
Question number 12, Mark Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr.